Joining us right now is the Alaska Governor, Mike Dunleavy. And Governor, it's good to have you. Thank you for joining us. Congratulations, by the way, on you're going into phase 3 before any other state in the country.
Yeah, we're pretty much open with everything, and it's at 100%. We were always a little different just because of our location. We invented social distancing up here in Alaska, right? We're a big state, 2.5 times the size of Texas. But we've had really good numbers. We do know that those numbers will go up because our numbers are so low, 0, 1, 2, 3, et cetera. So the numbers will go up as we mix more. We know that. But we're prepared for it. And that was the whole arrangement we had with the people of Alaska is give us time, let us build up our healthcare capacity, let us understand the virus, and then when that happens, we open up. That's what we did. People of Alaska are very good. They continue to be very good at helping each other. But businesses are open. We will get more cases, but we believe we can manage them, and we got to keep an eye on the economy because without an economy, you've really got nothing else.
Exactly. And as we know from countless studies, that can actually make this worse. And sometimes you could even see a greater tragedy with the consequences of keeping the economy locked down than not. And one of the other things that I know that Alaska, that your office has acknowledged and that other governors have acknowledged is that, obviously when you have an increase in testing too, you're going to see more people test positive. But what I notice that the media always fails to include with us, Governor, is the recovery rate. No one talks about that recovery rate. And the more of these cases that you have, those fatality rates drop. Talk to me a little bit about this as it relates to Alaska.
Yeah, so I'm looking at some figures here. So we have a total of 412 cases as of yesterday. Our numbers are still coming in for today. We had 0 deaths. We've had 0 deaths for some time. We have had a total of 10 deaths. No new hospitalizations, total of 46 hospitalizations, total of 46,363 tests. And recovered statewide, as you said, Dana, 364 recovered out of the 412. And so our numbers, like we said, our numbers are pretty good. And we know that there is, like I said, there's a flip side too, because our numbers are so low that you double your numbers from 1 to 2, exponentially, that's a rise percentage-wise. But nonetheless, we all have to be prepared to manage this virus. Right. Vaccinations won't be here for maybe a year, maybe a little longer. So it's here with us now. We have to learn to live with it. We have to learn to manage it. Testing, tracking, and social distancing where you can. If you don't have to hug somebody and you don't have to shake hands, you could do a show like we are via distance or a conference. It all helps reduce it until that vaccination comes along. But again, you mentioned it. It's really important to take a look at the economy and other aspects of society, marital issues, potential domestic violence issues, emotional, mental health issues. This is all part of the overall health of an entire state. And so it's got to be taken in that context.
Yeah, we talk about overwhelming the system, but people don't realize overwhelming the system as it relates to the instances that you just spoke about, Governor. I know that you've been watching, we've been discussing the businesses reopening and the health of the economy. I'm sure that you've heard from business owners as well in your state. What do you make of some of the more heavy-handed enforcement that you've seen maybe from other states across the country where, whether it's in Illinois where you have Pritzker saying, well, if you could go to jail if you reopen your business, and some of the enforcement efforts in states like California and New York. Obviously, I would think, I know Texans don't really go with that so well. From what I understand, Alaskans don't really either. Give me your take on that.
No. So again, we never had a lockdown like other states.
Right.
We said, get out, enjoy Alaska, just stay 6 feet away from each other. Go snowmobiling, go fishing,
it's
go
hunting. It's a big state. It's easy to do that.
It is a big. So we just said, just be conscious that this virus can jump from one person to another, and the further you are away from somebody, the less chance you have of spreading it or getting it. We told our people from the get-go there'll be no fining or threatening or chasing people around because we work for the people of Alaska. They're our bosses. And so what we're trying to do is manage this pandemic by making sure our healthcare has the capacity. Now it's up to individual Alaskans, individual entities, individual businesses to police themselves. We'll still continue to give them the latest information on the virus, but it's really up to people to be able to take care of their own health. We have the system in place so we don't overwhelm society. People have to make some choices.
Gosh, that's refreshing to hear, I have to say, because we're just besieged day in and day out with cable news from hearing from people who say exactly the opposite of what you just said. So it is so refreshing to hear that. Do you find that people, when kind of left to their own judgment, it seems to me, as it relates to this pandemic, they're pretty common sense. They're pretty commonsensical about this.
Yeah, I think seriously, I think when you rely on people, period, I think history shows that when you rely on individuals to do the right thing, they generally do the right thing. And for those that say that government is always going to do the right thing, we have lots of instances where government doesn't do the right thing. And so, trust me, Dana, this was not easy even for us to be able to say to our people and our businesses, please shut your doors for a while so we can get a handle on this virus, get our healthcare capacity up. But we now have an obligation, not just to our people, but also our businesses and our entities, to do everything we can to get them up off their knees, get them moving forward. And it's for their sake, but also for society in general. A healthy economy, happy people, it's the mix that you really need to move forward. And we're pretty optimistic here in Alaska.
And phase 3, as it's been previously defined by Doctors Fauci, Birx, and others, Redfield over at CDC, that's pretty much getting back to normal, correct?
Yeah, we're back. The only thing we really have in place in the state of Alaska is we have some very small Native Alaskan communities that don't have health care, that we work with them in limiting visitors in and out. Some of those small communities are hundreds of miles by air away from other places. So we help limit non-essential travel there because of the healthcare capacity. But also, we're going to ask people if they're going to come into the state of Alaska that they do a test. But in terms of businesses, entities, gatherings, that's now up to the people, the entities, and the business to govern that.
That is so good to hear. So Alaska's back, one of the first state in the country to go into phase 3. One last question for you, Governor, because so many states are dealing with, like, for instance, in Texas, oil and gas. I mean, we've been watching some oil prices. How has this affected specifically, inherent to Alaska's resources, the state economy and the product there? Because I know obviously fishing, crabbing, all of that.
It's going to be tough, Dana. I mean, we had a robust cruise ship industry here in the state of Alaska. We're an oil state. Mm-hmm. Businesses, our sectors, our industries are being hammered by this. And this is what we said. We said we were the first state to bring in a plane load of individuals from Wuhan, the State Department officials and their families back in January. So we stood up pretty early, but we also recognized that when this pandemic unfolded, there would be multiple components to it that will be potentially devastating. The health component, but also shutting the economy down, oil taking a hit, things like the cruise ship industries. These are going to be things we're going to be dealing with for months and months, if not longer, to get these things back on their feet. But again, we're Americans. We're Alaskans. Alaskans deal with natural disasters all the time, volcanoes, earthquakes, fires, floods, you name it. We pull together. And what we have found is that when we get through these, we come out of these things stronger and better. So that's what we're looking forward to.
Well, it's excellent leadership, I have to say, and I know that because we hear from folks in Alaska, and they're super excited about kind of just getting back to normal. Although, kind of what you said, and I love it, we've been practicing social distancing already. It's just something that they've alluded to. What would you have? Actually, this is going to be my last question for you. We're talking to Governor Dunleavy from Alaska. How would you, if you had to give advice to other state leaders, other lawmakers, in terms of going into phase 2, phase 3 reopening, what advice would you give now, being that Alaska is so successful at reopening and getting back to normal? What wisdom, having gone through this and being first in the nation at this point, would you impart to other leaders?
Don't forget what the original mission was. The original mission wasn't to chase people around and lock them in their houses. The original mission was to build up your healthcare capacity to deal with a new health threat, a new virus. And once you do that, or once you get to the point where you feel that your healthcare capacity is there, people have to police themselves. This is a free society. We are the freest country on the face of the earth. Alaska likes to pride ourselves on being the freest state in the country, but you have to rely on the people. We do everything for the people. We govern on their behalf. We don't govern them, but we govern on their behalf. And so you got to have faith in the people. In Alaska, this has paid dividends, asking people, working with people, working with entities. And again, as a result, we have lowest cases in the country. We do believe they will go up because there'll be more mixing. But nonetheless, this is all about people. And yes, we have become pretty darn close to limiting liberties. And some have even said brushing up against the Constitution. We should all be cognizant of that. The freedom and the liberties of this country are our greatest asset, and they will get us through this episode, this pandemic, just like it has before.
Yeah, there you go. Alaskan Governor Mike Dunleavy. It's a pleasure to have you. Congrats on that phase 3. And also congrats to Alaskans for having a governor that understands liberty and understands allowing people to make common sense decisions for themselves. Governor, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.